The mainstream media continue to fail during the global health emergency, the BBC finds a new way to raise taxes on ordinary people, and Jeremy Corbyn embarrasses himself again. Right, hello everybody and welcome to today's show. As you can tell, something is different. We have a new studio. We actually moved homes yesterday, so we're trying to find the best angle to actually do this, so feel free to give feedback in the comment section if you like it or not. But today we have what we're going to talk about is the mainstream media, the way they've been handling this health emergency and the whole situation that we're going through. They're not really professionals when it comes to certain aspects, especially health, because they're used to interviewing politicians and political journalism, which is quite different. So we're going to talk about this and how specifically Robert Peston of ITV have been failing for the past few weeks, but also we're going to discuss the BBC. They have new sneaky plans to raise taxes again on ordinary people. But before we start, we have launched our new daily live streams. As you know, we have a daily video at 5:45 p.m. that continues at 7 p.m. Also, we have our new live stream show called Quarantine Stream, live stream during the quarantine time, where we bring you a guest every night at 7 p.m. Tonight we have Emma Webb of the Civitas think tank. We're going to discuss a lot of things from identity politics to everything that's going on right now. And tomorrow we're going to have Guido Fawkes's Tom Harwood. We're going to have a lot of special guests there, so make sure you actually subscribe and click on the bell next to it so you get notified. Now, let's start with Robert Peston, one of our favourite journalists from ITV. So Robert Peston is used to interviewing politicians about political matters. He's not really used to interviewing medical experts. So he decided to pretend to be, I know exactly what I'm talking about. As you know, when it comes to this issue, we have two types of testing. One type is the antigen testing, which is it can tell if you're infected and if you test positive. And the second one is antibody test, which shows if you have had it and have now recovered. And then Robert Peston decided to get some fake news from China, new tests from China that would do both at the same time. It would show you if you have it currently, if you test positive, or if you have had it. Now, that doesn't exist. So he decided to interview the deputy medical officer and see what happens.
The point about these tests is they don't just tell you whether you've got the kind of antibodies which give you immunity, but in theory they will also be able to speed up the testing very considerably of people who've actually got the virus.
Well, I want to check that we're talking about the same tests here. I think you're referring to antibody tests.
They are indeed antibody tests, but these are antibody tests which in theory, as I understand it, not only test whether you've had the virus, but they do actually give you an indication whether you've got the virus at a particular time. They test for two kinds of antibody.
I'm afraid, sir, you are very wrong on that. You're referring to these antibody tests as ones which measure IgM and IgG. I'm sure that's what you're referring to.
That's it.
And those are two different sorts of antibody. They are not antigen. Yep. So if you have COVID-19 and you have the symptoms, and I take a swab from you and I try and apply an antibody test, it will be negative because you have the virus.
This is a blood test.
You're referring to the blood tests, and the blood tests test whether you have had it. They cannot ascertain whether you have it at the moment. That is completely incorrect.
Yes, Mr. Peston, facts matter. Just because China said something doesn't mean it's true. China lied, people died. We always say it. And yeah, so he's heard some weird kind of theory that there are some tests that we can actually do both at the same time. No, it doesn't exist. And what the problem is, even after this, instead of kind of taking a step back, not necessarily apologizing, but actually accept that he was wrong, he went on Twitter and doubled down. Robert Peston tweeted, "I am pleased that so many of you are deriving pleasure from the way that Jonathan Van Tam slapped down my question about whether a Chinese test for antibodies, which the government has spent millions of pounds buying, could detect the virus." And yeah, he also keeps talking about, I know the difference between antibody antigen test. At the same time, why did he not actually ask that question if he knew the difference? He says, I was slightly taken back at the ferocity of the Deputy Chief Medical Officer's response. Really? My view has always been that we should respect experts but not assume that they're always correct. And that matters more than ever when so many lives are at stake. Oh, it's interesting that Robert Peston mentioned this, that experts, we should listen to them but don't always take them seriously. He was the same person as part of the mainstream media who, during the Brexit campaign, during the EU referendum campaign in 2016, he was bringing on experts, so-called experts who were biased, and said, well, because of this, Remain should be the best option, because I brought an expert. This expert said, we have to stay in the European Union. What changed, Robert? What changed? We've had some reaction on Twitter about this. So we have a Stuart saying, it's time you stop with this. We are intelligent too, and the British people can see what's going on in the mainstream media. We had our fill of you during Brexit. Now this, no one expects the government to be a fairy godmother. Yes, they've got things wrong, but no one doubts that they are doing their best. Another person, Tim, says, I derive no pleasure. Valuable airtime is being wasted by having political journalists like you interview scientists and medics. Use your reach and influence to facilitate proper questioning by science and medical correspondents in order to inform the public rather than confuse them. Well, they're right. So the problem with people like Robert Peston and a few other political journalists is that they're used to a certain style of questioning politicians, and that's why they'll fail. So either get your medical correspondence, or you can still do it, but just do not treat medical experts the way you treat politicians. You have more reactions. Gary Jones said, it was the way that you spoke to him. Vanessa said, stop trying to rewrite history when we can all see the clip. And the last one says, well, why didn't you ask him that? This is what we mentioned. He said, I understand the difference between the two tests, but he didn't ask. Although that's not the first time, because earlier this week he also went on Twitter and criticised Michael Gove for saying that there is a shortage when it comes to chemical reagents. He said that, no, I've heard that, I've spoken to one source, that there are no shortages around the world. Yeah, we found evidence. Guido Fawkes, thank God for Guido Fawkes for investigating this. We have the evidence that Michael Gove is right, Robert Peston is wrong. Yeah, Peston said, I've just talked to the Chemical Industries Association, which represents the UK's very substantial chemicals industry. It has contacted its members and they've said that there is no shortage of the relevant reagents. So the association has now been in touch with Michael Gove's office to find out what he means, because it is stumped. Now, it could be right about this specific group, but Guido Fawkes did some research around the world. So firstly, we have the Professional Association of Laboratory Medics in Germany. They've said the association is worried that the materials required for testing, that's sample kits, materials for extracting samples and regions, are becoming scarce. The Department of Health in Australia said, due to the global demand exceeding supply, stocks of all laboratory-related testing consumables are under considerable strain. The CDC in the United States said that important regions are now in short supply. Leo Varadkar from Ireland said the current cause of delay is a shortage of regions. Again, Canada said the same thing, South Korea said the same thing, Israel said the same thing. So maybe Michael Gove knows something that you don't know, Robert Peston. But the mainstream media have always been ridiculous, and what they try to do is to defend their own interests in this whole thing. It's all a game for them. The BBC, we've been talking about reforming the BBC. The government want to decriminalise the licence fee and then actually find a way to denationalise the whole institution by either creating a subscription-based system or just make it private and have advertising. Now they're going to find a new way to increase taxes on ordinary people, the BBC. Yes, they proposed replacing licence fees with broadband levy. This is a new sneaky tax proposal. So the BBC have responded to the government's consultation on decriminalising the licence fee. And it's a 40-page response. And they said that in some countries, the TV licence is linked directly to an existing common household bill. For example, it is collected through electricity bills in Italy and the equivalent of council tax bills in France. Another option to consider as the UK progresses towards universal access could be broadband bills. Guido says that not content with charging TV users for services they don't want, they've now moved on to asking internet users who may not even own a TV to pay for the BBC. The genius part of the plan probably is this, but if you wanted to watch Netflix on your mobile phone, you'd still be forced to fund the BBC without even owning a television. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, first they run after people who own the TV, they make sure it's actually plugged in, and then you have to pay. Now, even if you don't have a TV and you just have a phone and you have Netflix, but you don't even have BBC iPlayer, you will have to pay. This is the response we have from the Taxpayers Alliance. James Roberts says, with the nation stuck at home making use of our broadband, the Beebs spotted an opportunity to slap a TV tax on the internet. Not only would it be wrong to have to pay the BBC protection money to watch Netflix, a broadband tax would also be terrible for smaller providers, rack up prices and drive poorer people offline. Ministers should take this as recognition that a license fee is simply not fit for the 21st century, and that the decriminalisation of the TV tax should be the first step. Yes, they're right, and we are not going to stop. On this channel, we have this massive campaign against the BBC and this TV tax. It is ridiculous. We're not going to stop until the government actually do something about this. Hopefully after this crisis, they can focus on reforming the BBC and getting rid of it, basically. But we have, last night, another Thursday, at 8 p.m, people went outside and clapped for carers, for the NHS staff, for working day and night during this crisis. The Prime Minister came out of his flat in Downing Street. It didn't look really good, but he was clapping on his own. And then one person who is over 70, who's been told to stay at home, who's been told to do the whole social distancing stuff, decided to come out of his house and do something even more ridiculous. Watch this. This is Jeremy Corbyn.
The Prime Minister made his first appearance outdoors since his diagnosis. The sentiment was shared across the political divide. Celebrities said thanks in an NHS video.
Why is he doing that? Do not hand things to each other. If you have it, or if the other person has it, you could actually transmit the whole thing. And regardless of if it's your son or neighbor, anything. This guy doesn't care. It's absolutely embarrassing. My problem is he's still a big political figure. There are some people in the country who look up to him. They're like, oh, Jeremy Corbyn, we like him, so we'll do what he does. Don't do this. It's bad. It's been a bad role model. So yes, this is Jeremy Corbyn being embarrassing again as usual. Luckily, he's now leaving, so we don't have to talk about him too much. But as we said, tonight at 7 p.m, we have Emma Webb from the Civitas think tank. We're going to talk about a lot of things that you guys will be interested in. So make sure you tune in live from there. You can ask questions. And tomorrow we're going to have Tom Harwood from Guido Fawkes, and we're going to have a lot of special guests in the future as well. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel and click on the bell next to it so you get notified. We have a daily show at 5:45 p.m. If you want to support this channel, because now more than ever we actually do need your support if you want this channel to survive and continue, feel free to become a member of our club. The link is in the description, or you could just find the join button next to subscribe, or go on your browser, type in youtube.com/MariaTousi/join. You get priority access and a lot of extra content as benefits if you want to support this channel. I'm Maria Tousi. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new video, and I'll see you at 7 p.m. on the Quarantine stream.